awareness has returned. You have found the dial. You have set it to Radiophonic Shadow, 1961.
Expense account submitted by the ego to the supraordinate authority of the self. Subject, the Individuation Project. Item 1. One human life. Cost, everything. Most people think of their lives as a series of random events. A bit of luck, a lot of hard work, maybe a career, a family, and a house with a decent lawn. They call it being normal. But for some, being normal is a nightmare. Their deepest need is to lead an abnormal life. They realize that the 23 pairs of chromosomes they were born with are just the raw materials. The real work, that's the internal accounting. My name is the ego. I'm the investigator on this case. I'm the one who thinks I'm in charge. The one who believes I have freedom of will. But the deeper I dig into the files of the unconscious, the more I realize I'm just a middle manager, working for a much larger, much more mysterious boss. The self. Jungian psychology calls this the process of individuation. It's the journey from being a fragmented piece of a person to becoming a unique, functional whole. But don't let the self-help gurus fool you. This isn't a weekend retreat. Act 1. The opening audit. The persona. Before we start the real work, we have to talk about the false wrap. When we're young, in the first half of life, our job is simple: adaptation to collective norms. We build a social mask. Jung called it the persona. The persona is your social identity. It's the teacher who can't stop lecturing at the dinner table, or the analyst who never stops analyzing. It's the man-made, manufactured version of you that seeks status and security. And for a while, it works. It pays the bills. But here's the problem. The aim of individuation is to divest the self of these false wrappings. The first expense, on your account, your reputation. To find out who you really are, you have to stop being who everyone else wants you to be. You have to separate from the collective, your parents, your cultural norms, and the conventional rules that tell you what to value and how to behave. Most people refuse the call here. They're terrified of the violence done to the ego by the emerging truth of the self. They'd rather keep the mask on and live a one-sided life. But the ledger doesn't lie. If you don't make the inner situation conscious, it happens outside, as fate. If you don't face your inner opposite, the world will tear you in half. Act 2. The apprentice piece. The shadow. Once you strip off the mask, you're left in the dark. This is stage 1 of the process, integrating the shadow. The shadow is the disowned self, It's every trait you've ignored, denied, or cut off to make yourself acceptable. It's the undifferentiated chaos that lives in your personal unconscious. Jung called shadow work the apprentice piece of the individuation process. It's the first real test. You have to look into the mirror and see the parts of yourself that you hate. The cost here is your ego inflation. You have to give up the narcissistic delusion that you are the center of the universe. You have to admit that you aren't as good or as conscious as you think you are. It's a high-stakes negotiation. If you deny the shadow, it grows stronger. It leads to anxiety, neurosis, and self-deception. But if you pay the price, if you integrate those disowned parts, you gain something invaluable, your own capacity. You stop being a mostly unconscious being running on autopilot, and you start to wake up. You are listening to Radiophonic Shadow. The time is 1961. We are exploring the rooms you forgot you owned. Act 3. The Masterpiece. The Anima and Animus. If the shadow is the apprentice piece, then stage 2 is the masterpiece. Integrating the anima, or animus. This is where the accounting gets complicated. The anima is the feminine aspect of a man's psyche. The animus is the masculine aspect of a woman's. They are the interior companions that connect us to the collective unconscious. This is about the tension of opposites. Most of us are one-sided. We favor the masculine, autonomy and logic, or the feminine, communion and relationship. But individuation demands balance. It asks, can you integrate both without favoring one over the other? Can you resolve the conflict between your instincts and your psyche? The cost of this stage is your certainty. You have to live in the chaotic life of the unconscious and allow conflict between your conscious mind and your soul. You have to surrender your clear-cut lines of good and evil. It's a heroic. You have to live in the chaotic life of the unconscious and allow conflict between your conscious mind and your soul. You have to surrender your clear-cut lines of good and evil. It's a heroic and often tragic task. It involves a passion of the ego, where the ordinary man you once were is robbed of his fancied freedom of will. Act 4. The final settlement. The self. We've reached stage 3, the realization of the self. The self isn't just you, it's the totality of the whole psyche. It's the organizing principle, the God image within us. It's the greater personality, unknowable to the ego. This is the goal. Wholeness. In the first half of life, the ego was the boss. But in the second half, the ego must enter into the service of the self. The self is like a force of nature. It has a wider perspective that the ego can't understand. It serves a greater truth. The ultimate payout. Becoming who you were destined to be from the beginning. But the path is not linear. It is a journey toward a center you may never fully reach. You are listening to Radiophonic Shadow 19.61. We are investigating the personal cost of being human in a world full of insanity. Act 5. The Daily Reconciliation. Now we come to the fine print. Is individuation a state you attain, like a gold watch at retirement? Or is it ongoing? You shift the focus. You don't look at your lifetime. You look at today. Individuation is a daily practice, one day at a time. Ask yourself, what does individuation look like for me today? If today was a lifetime, what choices would you make? What attitude would you bring to your relationships? This makes the abstract real. The cost of this practice is vigilance. Conclusion, yours truly. So, what's the final tally? Being human is a multifaceted journey. It requires consciousness, empathy, creativity, resilience, and meaning. It requires you to be a physician of the soul. The individuation process is treacherous and liberating. It can feel like being robbed of your freedom. But in the end, it's the only way to find your place in the grand tapestry of humanity.
It bridges the gap between imagination and shared reality. The cost is everything you thought you were. The payout is everything you actually are. Expense account closed. Yours truly, the ego.